Alrighty guys, welcome to my Major League Baseball free pick video here today for Monday, April 3rd, 2023. Happy Monday to you. Hopefully you guys had a great weekend. My name is Brock Page and I've been dishing out free sports picks right here on YouTube since 2016. And if you want to see which one of these free picks on these videos that I'm actually betting on personally, you may want to think about signing up for my full access, all-inclusive chairman package on my website. Chairman members get access to every single personal play of mine, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus here, guys, you're also going to get access to my Chairman podcast absolutely free. It's going to be included with that purchase. It's a full breakdown of every single one of my personal plays for that day. You're going to get access to that for the next 30 days. I currently have over 535 members who are signed up and active on my website right now. With that, guys, let's go ahead and dive into some baseball action. Huge slate today, so let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to start off with the Mets at the Brewers, 2:10 Eastern start time. Milwaukee's minus $1.20, totals 8. Freddie Peralta on the bump for Milwaukee. Carlos Carrasco for New York. Now, Carrasco is coming off a solid 15-7 season last year, and he averaged over a strikeout an inning in spring training. Now, as a team, the Mets took 3 of 4 from Miami in opening day weekend. They averaged nearly 6 runs a game in those victories. Of course, there's no pleasing Frank the Tank from Barstool. He's still mad at the Mets, even though they look pretty good. But anyway, Starling Marte, he hit .357 in the series with 6 total bases. Meanwhile, Mark Canha went 4 for 13 with 8 total bases himself. And even though Milwaukee had a solid 9-run effort yesterday against the Cubs, they were actually held to just 3 total runs in that series opening 2 contests. And despite the fact that Freddie Peralta has been solid over a handful of seasons, he did allow he allowed a handful of home runs during spring training. So I do have a little some concerns there. But anyway, total-wise, Milwaukee saw 2 out of their last 3 stay under. Meanwhile, all 4 of New York's games this season failed to get over 8 total runs. It's going to be the Mets plus $1 under 8. Next game, Giants, White Sox, 3:10 p.m. East. Chicago's minus 130, totals 8. Michael Kopech for the Sox. Anthony DeSclafani for San Francisco. Now, Anthony allowed 6 earned runs in just 9+ innings in spring training. As far as offensive production is concerned, this Giants lineup was shut out twice through 3 games this year. They're going to have to face Michael Kopech, who had an ERA in the 3s last year, along with a 1.19 whip. Now, the White Sox also split the season opener with the defending champion Houston Astros, and they had a handful of guys get on base. So even though they split the series, you got to consider that a win, going up against a team like Houston. Yohan Moncada, he had .444 in the series with the Astros. He had a couple of homers, 17 total bases. Meanwhile, Tim Anderson had 7 hits in the series as well. When it comes to the number, the Sox saw their last 3 straight all get over the total. Meanwhile, San Francisco allowed 5 runs or more in all 3 of their contests this year. Give me the White Sox minus 130 over 8. Next matchup, Cubs, Reds, 6:40 p.m. East. Chicago's minus $1.25, totals 8.5. Drew Smyly for the Cubs, Connor Overton for Cincy. And even though Connor did have a rough spring training, he is backed by a more than capable Cincy lineup who can certainly get on base. Johnny India is hitting .455 with an OPS in the thousands. Meanwhile, Jake Fraley went 4 for 9 in the opening day series with a few RBIs as well. They're facing a Cubs team who lost their last 2 straight. They gave up 12 total runs in those losses, having some problems with that pitching staff early. They also have Drew Smyly on the hill, who had a pretty hellacious spring training. He allowed 6 homers through 16+ innings, and he finished with an ERA in the 6s. Now, total-wise, 2 out of Chicago's last 3 did stay under the number. Meanwhile, Cincy saw their last 2 straight stay under themselves. Give me the Reds plus 105, under 8.5. Next game, Twins, Marlins, 6:40 p.m. East. Minnesota's minus $1.25, total 7.5. Tyler Mahle for Minnesota. Johnny Cueto for Miami. Now, Cueto has just 1 winning season since his All-Star bid in 2016. I know that seems like improbable, but yeah, Quates hasn't been great for a while. Once again, just one winning season since that All-Star bid back in 2016. Now, as a team, Miami lost 3 of 4 to start the year, and they averaged only 2 runs a game offensively. Now, they're going to have to face Tyler Mahle, who struck out 15 batters in 17-plus innings of work in spring training. This Minnesota pitching staff actually pitched 2 shutouts in their opening day weekend series with KC. Now, total-wise, Minnesota did see 2 out of those 3 ball games with Kansas City stay under the line. No real shock there. Meanwhile, Miami, they are 3-1 to the under themselves. Give me Minnesota minus $1.25, under 7.5. Next matchup, Phillies, Yankees, 7:05 East. New York Yankees are minus 170, totals 8 runs. Nestor Cortes for New York, Taijuan Walker for Philadelphia. Now, Walker had significant control issues in Clearwater this preseason. He walked 5 batters, hit 3 of them, and finished with a 1.92 whip. Now, this Phillies pitching staff also gave up a staggering 29 runs to Texas in just 3 games. They're facing a Yankee club who scored 5 or more in their opening series against San Francisco. They scored 5 or more runs in all of those games. Aaron Judge, he hit .462 with a couple of homers and a handful of ribbies. Meanwhile, Anthony Rizzo, he had a couple of hits, couple of walks, and currently has an OPS in the thousands. That's what you pay him for, to get on base. And even if the bats for some reason do go cold here today for New York, the Bombers should be in good hands with Nestor Cortes. He went 12-4 in an all-star bid last year with a stingy .92 whip. Going to be interesting to see his tempo, his wind-up with the new pitch clock. Obviously he pitched a little bit in spring training, so he had to deal with it then. But, he can be herky-jerky and kind of hold that leg up, for a couple seconds before going to the plate. But anyway, total-wise, this Yankee lineup can certainly put this one over the number themselves. They do have that capability. And no real surprise for Philadelphia. They saw 2 out of their last 3 get over the number, giving up all those runs. Give me the Yankees minus 170, over 8. Next game, Rays, Nationals, 7:05 East. Tampa Bay's minus 175, totals 8. Drew Rasmussen for the Rays, Trevor Williams for Washington. Now, Williams has a career 1.34 whip, and spring training was certainly no exception. Trevor allowed 11 earned runs, couple of homers, and actually finished the preseason with a 1.43 whip. Now, this Washington lineup was also held to just 7 total runs through 3 contests against Tampa Bay. Not Tampa Bay. Who'd they play? Atlanta. But anyway, they're going to have their hands full with Drew Rasmussen here today, who's coming off a solid 2022 campaign. Drew had an ERA in the 2s along with a 1.04 whip. Now, this Rays lineup also put up 19 runs against Detroit through 3 games. Wander Franco hit 636 in that series with 4 extra base hits and 13 total bases. Meanwhile, Randy Arozarena and Yandy Diaz, they had a handful of ribbies between the both of them. Now, when it comes to the scoring, this Tampa lineup could put this one over themselves. Got some pretty good bats. Meanwhile, Washington allowed 5 runs a game on average in their opening series with Atlanta. Give me the Rays minus 175, over 8. Next game, Pirates, Red Sox, 7:10 Eastern start time. Boston's minus 160, totals 9. Cutter Crawford for Boston, Johan Oviedo for Pittsburgh. Now, Ovi had some pretty good stuff last year between his stints with St. Louis and Pittsburgh. He had a combined ERA of 3.21, and he averaged just about a strikeout an inning. Meanwhile, at the plate for Cincy, O'Neal Cruz, he hit .400 on opening day weekend with a homer and 7 total bases. Meanwhile, Connor Joe's also 3 for 7 through a couple of ball games himself. Now, they're facing Cutter Crawford, who went just 3-6 last year with an ERA in the mid-5s. Now, this Boston pitching staff as a whole, they allowed 23 total runs in their 3-game series against Baltimore. Now, total-wise, no real surprise here. All 3 of those contests I just mentioned got over the number. Give me Pittsburgh plus 1.5, keeping this one close, over 9 runs. Next game, Blue Jays, Royals, 7:40 Eastern first pitch. Toronto is minus 139, totals 8.5. Jose Barrios for the Jays, Brady Singer for the Royals. And even though Singer is coming off his best season, he still has a career ERA in the fours. Now, this Kansas City lineup also got swept in their season opening series, and they scored just 4 total runs through 3 games. Now, they're going to have to face Jose Barrios, who has not had a losing year in his last 8 seasons. He's also backed by a Toronto lineup who's averaging 5 runs a game through 3 contests already. Matt Chapman, he's hitting .500 with an OPS in the thousands. Meanwhile, Bo Bichette, he's hitting .429 with 7 total bases. When it comes to the total in this one, Toronto saw 2 out of their last 3 get over. Give me the Blue Jays -139 over 8.5. Next matchup, Braves, Cards, 7:45 East. Atlanta's -130 on the road, totals 8 runs. Charlie Morton for Atlanta, Jake Woodford for St. Louis. Now, Woodford had an ERA in the low 2s last season, along with a 1.11 whip. And spring training was certainly no different. He struck out 18 batters in just 17-plus innings with a 1.01 whip. So you're looking at a guy who strikes people out, keeps people off bases, doesn't give up a whole lot of runs. The St. Louis lineup, speaking of runs, they scored 22 runs in 3 games versus Toronto. Of course, Paulie Goldschmidt, he went 6 for 12 with 7 total bases in that opening series. Meanwhile, Nolan Gorman hit .444 with a couple of homers and 6 RBI. Now they're facing Charlie Morton here today, who's actually had an ERA in the 4s in 2 out of his last 3 seasons. He also allowed 4 homers in 12 spring training innings this year and finished the preseason with an ERA in the 6s. So I'm not sure if this guy's declining or if he just had a couple of years that stood out more than others, but I'm not feeling great about Charlie Morton right now. Now, injury-wise, Paul DeJong's on the IL for St. Louis. Lars Nootbaar, he is also questionable. When it comes to the total, the Cards saw 2 out of their last 3 get over the posted total. Give me St. Louis plus $110 over 8. Next game, O's Rangers, 8:05 Eastern start time. Texas is -137, totals 8. Johnny Gray for the Rangers, Kyle Bradish for Baltimore. Now, Brady went just 4-7 last season with an ERA dangerously close to 5. As far as this season's concerned, he had a pretty bad spring training. He actually had a .661 ERA through 16-plus innings. Now he's facing a Texas lineup who's leading the league right now in scoring. They actually put up nearly 30 runs in 3 games. That was all against the Phillies. Aroldis Garcia, he went 5 for 11 in the series with 3 RBI. Meanwhile, Robbie Grossman went 4 for 9 with 8 total bases himself. When it comes to the number, Texas saw 2 out of their last 3 get over. Meanwhile, Baltimore saw all 3 of their games against Boston get over the total themselves. Give me the Rangers -137 over 8. Next game, Tigers, Astros, 8:10 Eastern start time. Houston's -225, totals 8.5 runs. Hunter Brown for Houston, Matthew Boyd for Detroit. Now, Boyd's had just 1 winning season since 2016. And no real surprise here, guys. Boyd's got a career ERA dangerously close to 5. Now, this Detroit pitching staff, they allowed 21 runs through just 3 games with Tampa Bay. They're facing a Houston lineup on the other side who's very powerful, very dangerous, and they're led by Yordan Alvarez. He's hitting .455 with 5 RBI already. Meanwhile, Jose Abreu's 6 for 16 at the dish. When it comes to the injury report, Brantley and Altuve are still on the IL. Now, total-wise, I don't think the Tigers can score enough to help put this one over. And in addition to that, they've scored just 3 total runs for the entire season. Give me Houston -1.5, under 8.5 runs in the tight window. All right, next game, little NL West action. We're going to take a look at the D-backs at the Padres, 9:40 Eastern first pitch. San Diego's -137, totals 8.5. Ryan Weathers for the Pods, Ryan Nelson for Arizona. Now, Nelson did get knocked around a bit in spring training. He finished the preseason with an ERA in the 7s. When it comes to offensive production, the D-backs are averaging only 1.7 runs a game through 4 contests. Now, they're facing a Padres lineup on the other side of things who scored 11 runs in their past 2 games. And, of course, Xander Bogaerts, kind of tough, hard to believe he's in a Padres uniform. Just doesn't look right, but he's hitting .429 with his new team with a pair of home runs. Now, Todd Grisham, he's second on the team in total bases. And speaking of the total in this one, both teams saw 2 out of their last 3 ball games stay under the number, respectively. Give me San Diego minus 137, under 8.5. Next matchup, Guardians A's, 9:40 Eastern first pitch. Cleveland's minus 155, total 7.5. Zach Plesac for Cleveland, James Caprillion for Oakland. Now, Jamie Kay is coming off a 5-9 season, and he hasn't had a year yet with a sub-4 ERA, believe it or not. And even if he does give the A's a good outing here today, there's a pretty good chance he's not going to get any run support. Oakland scored just 3 total runs in their opening series with the Angels. Now they're facing Zach Plesac on the mound here today, who struck out 17 in just 18 innings of work in the preseason. Now the Guardians are also on a 3-game winning streak, and they scored 17 total runs in those victories. Stephen Kwan, he's currently leading the roster in RBI with 6 of them already. And even though Josh Bell had just 1 hit over the course of the weekend, he was walked 6 times. So people are pitching around him. This is a guy that's probably going to get on base. Very dangerous, powerful bat in the lineup. Now, total-wise, 2 out of Cleveland's last 3 did get over. This Oakland pitching staff also allowed 19 runs over the past 2 games. Give me Cleveland minus 155, over 7.5. Next matchup, Angels-Mariners, 9:40 Eastern first pitch. Seattle's minus 140, total 7. George Kirby for Seattle, Reed Detmers for LA. Now, Detmers had a winning record last year with a struggling Angels franchise. He averaged like I said, the Angels were pretty bad last year. They struggled, and Reed pitched well with them. He averaged just about a strikeout an inning and had an ERA in the 3s. Now, Taylor Ward, offensively, he went 7 for 14 in the opening day weekend series with a home run and 10 total bases. Meanwhile, Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani, they're both hitting in the 300s, and they have 16 total bases between the both of them. Now, they're facing a Seattle club who lost their last 3 straight, and they've certainly struggled with the bats over the weekend. The Mariners averaged only 3 runs a game in their 4-game series with Cleveland. And when it comes to the injury report, Max Stassi and Jared Walsh, they're still on the IL for Los Angeles. Now, total-wise, 2 out of the Angels' last 3 did fall under the number. I also think Seattle's just going to struggle to get base runners. So give me the Angels plus 1.5, under 7. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup for the video. It is going to be in the Rockies-Dodgers game, 10:10 Eastern start time. The LA Dodgers are minus 220, totals 8.5. Michael Grove for Los Angeles, Ryan Feltner for Colorado. Now, Feltner was just 5-9 last season with an ERA scary close to 6. As far as spring training goes, Feltner allowed 5 homers, 10 walks, and 18 earned runs through just 16-plus innings. Now, he's facing a Dodger team who scored 18 total runs in their 2 victories this season. Freddie Freeman's hitting .333 with a couple of walks and a couple of runs scored. Meanwhile, Mookie Betts and J.D. Martinez, they have 14 total bases between the both of them. When it comes to the injury report, Randall Grichuk is still on the IL for Colorado. Now, total-wise, both teams saw 2 out of their last 3 stay under the number, respectively. Give me the Dodgers minus 1.5, under 8.5 runs.